Hello and welcome to the Celtic Way build-up to Motherwell v Celtic. I'm Aidan Macdonald and today I'm joined by Ryan McGinlay live from Fir Park. Ryan, mate, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks. I'm sorry if you can hear Fleetwood Mac in the background. Nothing we can do about background music, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm delighted to be here. Delighted to be here in person watching Celtic away from home. Should be a good game. First v fourth. Two informed teams. Two teams that like to play good football. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's actual plenty for us to discuss over the next 10 or 15 minutes, guys, but obviously we'll just get straight into it in terms of the team, which is also up on the screen now, and the ticker take down below for anybody that's watching live. So the team is Bain in goal, back for Alistair Johnson, Gustav Lagerbielke, Scales, Greg Taylor. Midfield, you've got O'Reilly, McGregor, Hatate. On the wings, you've got Yang on the right, Maid on the left, with Kyogo through the middle. Now, Ryan and I were having obviously a wee bit of a debate before this about exactly what the positions were when they were lining up, but we think that's near enough exactly what the team is. So, Ryan, I guess firstly, what's your thoughts on that side? Are you quite happy with how Brendan Rodgers is lined up?
Yeah, delighted, especially delighted with that midfield. I know we'll get on to talk about it in the next 5 minutes or so, but the fact that there is three players now on extended deals operating that midfield is absolutely brilliant going. You know, in the wide positions, Maeda's signed up, Yang's just joined the club, and Kyogo as well. He signed a new deal too. So everybody knows where their at least short to medium term future is going to be. Long term, if they decide to see out the duration of their deal. Yeah, the back line, Scales and Lagerbielke. I did think Lagerbielke was going to play, considering he isn't going to be playing on Wednesday night. He's obviously suspended. So, you can't have him not playing 2 games in a row, in my opinion. And you've got to keep a player like either Phillips or Scales on the bench, because obviously he's went with the former. Scales is in the lineup, Phillips is on the bench. One or two of them are going to play against Lazio, you would suspect. So as long as you can keep one of them fit, maybe bring him on in the second half, maybe Brendan Rodgers bring him on for 20-30 minutes, get him up to speed, get Phillips up to speed. But yeah, they've got to keep themselves right. I'm glad that Lagerbielke is staying in there. I thought he had one of his better games against Livingston, and yeah, Scales, despite what I said in the predicted lineups, he probably can't be dropped at the moment. He's been one of Celtic's better players over the past 3-4 weeks. So yeah, no complaints. I think the rest of the positions pick themselves, especially in midfield. Kyogo up front. The only real doubt was whether it was going to be Yang or Palma. He's obviously went with Yang, but Palma can come off the bench and make an impact. I thought it was quite interesting to see Paulo Bernardo on the bench as well. He's just trying to make his way into this team. Obviously hasn't made the cut in terms of the starters or the subs. So it'll be interesting to watch that as the weeks and months go on.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise that Bernardo wasn't involved. I think everybody had thought he was going to be coming in and pushing for a starting place, but with how good O'Reilly's been and Hatate coming back from injury, it doesn't seem to have worked out. But there's plenty of games to be played between now and the end of the season, particularly if Celtic do stay in Europe after Christmas. So I'm sure he'll get an opportunity at some point. In terms of the wingers, Ryan, I know you and I both picked Palma on the right, and I think we went for Palma on the right and Maeda on the left in our own teams. Obviously, Rodgers today, he's went for Yang. Are you quite happy to see Yang in from the start? He's obviously made a pretty positive contribution so far. I think mostly from the bench. I believe this might be his only second start for Celtic. So it's mostly been kind of coming on as a substitute. But are you happy to see him involved?
Yeah, to be honest, I'd be happy with either or. I'd be happy with Yang or Luis Palma coming into the team. I think always when you're bringing in new wingers, it's exciting to see how they acclimatise to the team so quickly. I think Yang, he's been up and down. I would say the Aberdeen game was his highlight, getting that assist for Matt O'Reilly, who's obviously got the new deal. That was a great bit of work from him. He did try against St Johnstone. He tried to get on the ball, but nothing really came off for him in that sense. He was one of the brighter sparks, but he didn't get a goal or an assist. Celtic obviously struggled that day. But yeah, I think they're just trying to bed Luis Palma into the team. Yang's clearly been there longer, so I think that's maybe why he's got the nod. Palma might get the nod in midweek, especially against a higher opposition in Lazio, you would say. But yeah, there's strength and depth in those wide positions. Obviously, it would have been better if Celtic had Abada to call upon as well, another player that signed a new deal recently, but he's still going to be out for the next 2 to 3 months. So it's Yang and Palma that are fighting out for that spot today, and it seems as if Yang got it today.
Yeah, I think he has had some exciting moments. I even thought when he came on at Ibrox, for example, even though he didn't score or contribute an assist in that game, he still played quite well. So he's definitely a player that seems to have a lot in his locker, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I guess maybe just to go back a wee bit in terms of the team, Scott Bain, obviously we knew he was going to have to start today because Siegrist, who is on the bench for this game, but I think it's the first time he's been in really any of the competitive squads this season. So we knew he wasn't going to start, and it was probably going to be Bain after Joe Hart's red card last week. Also, this is a big match for Scott Bain. I think it's only his second start in the last 18 months. I believe his other sort of game in from the start was against Hibs, which I know we probably don't need to go into too much because it was a bit of a rough game for him and Celtic in general. Despite the season being done, it was a disappointing performance. Are you kind of hoping that Bain can... I think nobody's expecting Bain to be involved in Wednesday night because Joe Hart will come back in, but are you hoping that Bain can sort of solidify himself as a clear number 2 choice in terms of an actual playing capacity rather than just, well, he's making up the numbers because there's no one else there?
Yeah, I think despite Rodgers' comments and the pre-match press conference, we all knew it was going to be Scott Bain in goals. Siegrist just isn't fancied for whatever reason. I don't know if that's on-field issues or off-field issues. I don't know what's happened because he seemed to be the clear number 2 until the Sydney Super Cup. And then since then, after the World Cup break, he would say he's not been fancied whatsoever. It's a bit of a weird one that hasn't been resolved yet, or we aren't privy to the information as of yet. We'll probably hear about that in the months and years down the line, probably. But right now, it seems as if Scott Bain is the clear number 2 choice. What I'm hoping for is a quiet day for him because it means that Celtic aren't getting attacked all too much. That would be a positive in that end. But you know, we can talk about that game against Hibs, and he did throw the ball into the back of the net. But apart from that, I mean, he did have a couple of good saves in that game before then. You know, it's one of those ones that Joe Hart made that mistake against Livingston, but he had a great save just before it. You know, it's I expect him to do the job because he's employed by Celtic. You know, he didn't get that didn't get announced that he'd signed that new deal, but I think everybody knows that he's on an extended 3-year deal. It wasn't announced by the club, but it's one of those sort of open secrets that everybody knows about. He's extended for the long term. So, yeah, I just think as long as he does his job today, not do anything silly, and he's on his goal line, then Celtic should be fine. But, you know, if he tries too much, then he might get he might get capitalised on. Hoping that's not the case, but, you know, you never know.
And I guess just before we move on to the contract news, in terms of the bench, we also touched on Bernardo not being involved. You mentioned Phillips and Awata potentially coming on as centre-back options. Is there anybody else you'd like to see maybe get some minutes? Maybe Odenholm, Turnbull, etc.?
Yeah, I think you've named them all, to be honest. I would like to see a wee bit more of Odenholm. I've been impressed every time he's been on, apart from that game against Feyenoord, where he was on and then he was off as if by magic in quick succession. So, yeah, I like the cut of his jab. I think he's got a good dribbling ability. He's good on the ball. You know, he's a young player, only 20 years old. He's got lots to learn, but he looks a really promising youngster. And he's got a lot of games under his belt as well. You know, he's played in Norway for the best part of 3, 4, 5 years. You know, he's had just under 100 appearances in senior football, so he knows all about playing, which maybe makes that mistake a bit more unforgivable because he's been around the block a bit despite being 20 years old. You know, he's an old 20-year-old, if you could say that, when compared to maybe a young 25 in Rio Hatate. Yeah, David Turnbull, he can provide a spark off the bench, you know, especially from dead ball situations and just outside the box where he can strike the ball. Shame about Bernardo, but he's just buying his way into the team. I'd like to see a wee bit more. You know, you want that second option to be just as good. I know he's not as good a player as Kyogo, but you want him to be able to come off the bench and be relied upon to score goals when it maybe isn't working out for Kyogo, or when you're needing a more potent or a more physical presence up front. If he can get some game time, I mean, if he can get some meaningful game time, it usually means that the game is wrapped up and he's getting those minutes to just improve on his game and hopefully add a couple of goals to his name. You know, he had such a good end to the season. We talked about that Hibs game. He did score. Probably should have scored a couple more. But in Aberdeen, one of the last games of the season, he was one of the standouts. He came on and instantly made an impact, scored 2 goals. So I do want to see more from him. Unfortunately, he's got the best striker in Scotland in front of him, so it's going to be difficult for him to break into that team. When those opportunities do arise, he's got to take them with both hands or feet.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to see a wee bit more of Owen. Hopefully we will today. Before we finish up, Ryan, we're obviously just going to discuss the contract news over the last 24 hours. double contract special from Celtic. They've given out a lot of deals over the sort of, if you want to say, the summer and then into the autumn so far. And I think these two in particular are really exciting the fans. Rio Hatate, firstly, yesterday, signing a 5-year deal. So he's extended his sort of contract Celtic until 2028. He seems delighted with it. Brendan Rodgers seems happy. The fans are absolutely buzzing. The way Celtic teased it was quite entertaining as well. Obviously, a phenomenal player, Ryan, and delighted, like I'm sure you are, that he's signed up for the long term.
Best player in Scotland for me, or one of them. I think you take your pick out of the two that signed yesterday for the best midfielders in Scotland. I would say alongside Cal McGregor as well, who obviously signed a new deal earlier on in the window or earlier on in the summer. That's the Celtic players just training. But yeah, I'm delighted with Rio Hatate. You know, there've been ups and downs as to whether or not he was going to sign a new deal. You know, constant negotiations over the summer. You'd heard. So glad that's been signed, sealed, and delivered basically. And Rio Hatate's here for the next 5 years, or at least he is on paper. I don't think he'll see out the 5 years, unfortunately. That's just due to the level of player that he is. But it keeps an asset in essence, because you know he's signed up for that 5 years extension. It means whoever's going to come in for him, whether that be a Premier League team, a Bundesliga team, Serie A, whatever big team in the top 5 league, if they come in, then they're going to need to pay a premium rate. Whereas it might have only been 10, 15 million. I think you're looking at 20, 25 for Hatate by the time another team comes in. I'm not wishing him away. I know he's just signed a new deal yesterday, but it's just great asset, sort of safeguarding from Celtic. I think it's a phenomenal bit of business.
Absolutely, and I think really it's the fans are absolutely delighted with that, because Kyogo, they got that done, they got Maeda done, they got Abada done. You know, McGregor as well, Ralston, Welsh, and Hatate seemed to be the one you didn't know if it was going to happen. Brendan Rodgers had obviously touched on that the negotiations had been going on actually long before he came into the club, so when Andrew was still here. So I think the fact that they've got it over the line is good. We also heard reports a couple of days ago that it was quite near, but you know, until it's officially confirmed, you can't fully relax on it. So it was great news. In terms of another positive, obviously Matt O'Reilly this morning is signing up. Even more news, can't even escape it before a game day in terms of breaking Celtic news. But yeah, Matt O'Reilly's signed a 4-year deal with Celtic, keeping him here until summer 2027. Obviously, he's been phenomenal this season, Ryan. Like you were saying, one of, if not the best players in Scotland. Brendan Rodgers has been really happy with him. He seems to be somebody who's really bought into what the manager's trying to do, and he's thrived under him. He also did very well under Andrew last season, even though he didn't score as many goals. 14 assists. I think it was the most assists in the league. It was a phenomenal return, but I guess well, I don't need to guess. I know you're absolutely delighted with Matt O'Reilly signing up as well.
Yeah, he's a player that we've been talking about every week on the Celtic Way. It seems every day. Every time we need to do a statistical piece, Matt O'Reilly's near enough the top of all those metrics, both in defence and in attack. I think he's absolutely important. He's so important for Celtic. He's one of Celtic's maybe 2-3 most important players, alongside Cal McGregor and Carter Vickers when he returns. I think that those three are absolutely necessary for Celtic to do well long term. Obviously, they're doing well without Carter Vickers at the moment. You know, they're not conceding too many goals, but I think Matt O'Reilly is pivotal to absolutely everything that Celtic do. You look at the pressures numbers, counter pressures, interceptions, tackles. These are all defensive metrics, but attacking as well. You look at the goals scored already and the type of goals that he's scoring too. You know, he seems a lot more potent in front of goals, and the confidence is there. You can see it in the body language from him. There isn't as much pressure on those shoulders. I thought maybe the Celtic shirt was a bit heavy on him last season at certain points. Maybe when he was playing in that number 6 role as well, but he seems to have got a new lease of life, and I think that's all down to the manager. I think what you see now is that these 5 or 6 players that have signed up to new deals, both the Japanese trio, Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly now as well, and a few others, Anthony Ralston too. It shows that they're all buying into Brendan Rodgers' philosophy. He definitely is a player's manager, basically. You know, these players are really enjoying playing under this manager, and they want to commit to the long term. Whether or not they see out these deals is another question, but at the moment they seem really happy to be playing under Brendan Rodgers, and yeah, that's why they've signed a new deal. If they weren't happy, they wouldn't sign the new deals. So it's an indication that they are happy, and they're happy and settled. So absolutely ideal.
And just before we go, Ryan, get a quick score prediction from you for the game today, since I know you weren't on the briefing yesterday.
I'm predicting a very difficult game, to be honest. Motherwell have been doing really, really well under Stuart Kettlewell. That being said, I do see Celtic winning this game. I'm going to go for a 3-0. 3-0. Clean sheet is important, but we need to score some goals as well. Get the goal difference up to 3-0.
I'm going to go slightly more conservative. I'll go 2-0, Ryan. I think it will be a good performance, but just Motherwell have started the season quite well.
Anyone will do. Anyone will do it.
Exactly. Puts the pressure on sort of Rangers and St Mirren. I can't forget who are right up there as well, ahead of their games later on today. So, yeah, 2-0, and I'll go for Kyogo to get a double. So, yeah, quite happy with that. But Ryan, thanks very much for joining us, mate. Enjoy the game. I know you and I will be providing analysis from the match, and we'll be back a wee bit later on after the game to sort of break it all down in terms of post-match reaction. But until then, guys, once again, for anybody that's interested, you can subscribe to the Celtic Way, £4 for 4 months, support top quality journalism, covering the club you all love. It allows us to do videos like this as well as the briefing Monday to Friday. So it's in the description of this video. It's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. But until then, we'll see you after the game. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.